Hi guys. Let's hope this time I can actually keep it short. Um, Good luck with that. Oh, this has been, I'm just drop dead. And it's because the cooler temps have moved in, which automatically make me sleepy. And the fact that it has actually rained, which we needed, but doesn't really help anything towards my sleepiness. I sleepwalked through the day. I made the mistake of waking up at 5:50 so I could unlock the door and doing something I have done thousands of times and have told myself not to do. I'm a grown ass woman. You think that I'd be smarter than to go back to bed. I was awake at 5:50 this morning and I told myself I am awake. I should stay awake. Instead, I tried to go back to bed and recapture that last dream I had, which no, it's impossible. It doesn't work. It does well. One out of 1,000 times it will work, but it doesn't work every time. So I drag-assed all throughout the morning. Oh my God. And we were slammed today. My GM has this theory that if it rains, you get less business. Well, I'll put it this way. I'm glad that it rained. Otherwise, I probably would have dropped dead with a sub in one hand and a pizza in the other because, my God, they tried to kill us today. As in, the couple of things that I normally finish before I leave didn't get completed. We got that slammed. Um, it's a good thing. I mean, I like being busy. It makes the day go by faster. I'm really loving my hours. I mean, I get to leave an hour early. Uh, my supervisors all, oh, well, still, that's about 4 or 5 hours. That would get, I can't take that taken off my pay. And I'm like, I don't care. I mean, I just got a raise, so my paycheck's going to come out the same. And I don't mind. That means I get a couple of hours without the kiddos, who, by the way, were off today. So the extra 5 minutes that I stayed over was to make something so that we could all have lunch today. Um, they are off until next Wednesday. That is going to be a nightmare. Oh my God, a nightmare. Not looking forward to that at all. But it has been a good week, though it has been a tiring week, which is hilarious because, like I said, my hours are cut. You'd think I'd be less tired, not more tired. But the temperatures dropped around here, which is such a relief. It took me like 1 or 2 days to realize, though, because we keep the house cold because hubby sleeps, of course, during the day, being a third shifter, which means he likes it cold. When I go to sleep at night, I like it cold. So to say it took a day or two for me to realize there's really no difference from the temperature inside my house, the temperature outside my house, yeah. Um, yeah, it's nice and cool out there. I'm extremely pleased. First thing I did was, the other day was just shut off the AC, and I've opened up nearly all the windows in the house. I don't open up the kiddos' windows just because, well, gosh knows what could happen. They would probably try to close the window, and their window goes up and down too easily. The last thing I need is severed fingers. I mean, just put it like that. But it has been a crazy week beyond that point. One of the crazy things is, I mean, we're slowly getting our finances under control. Slowly. It seems that as we start to get things covered, more things want to hit us. Now I have a cell phone bill again. I have $50 every 2 weeks coming out of my account. You go, oh, well, $100, it's not that bad. It's true. $100 is not that bad. But I took like 100 off of my car insurance. So, an extra, $100 or actually 150 with my cell phone bill shouldn't be that much of a problem. But like I said, I took $100 off my car insurance. I guess it'll balance things out. But it's amazing that we're slowly getting back on footing, but we're still living atypically from paycheck to paycheck, even though we're both making pretty good money. Hubby's still upset because, of course, being a third shifter, and corporate mentality being the way it is, uh, he's still making the same pay I am, which is stupid. I mean, he's working at night. The guy who's most likely going to get a gun in his face makes the same as I do. The company's like, oh, well, they don't make enough sales to, there's one of them. You have 2 or 3 people on the other shifts. There's one person on third shift. I think an extra 25 cents and the respect that goes with it isn't stretching it. Especially since there's a lot of times when he's there, management is not, and he's signing in, milk and beer and this, that, and the other to go back in the cooler. That's a manager's job. It's not a customer service representative's job. But it's not going to happen. Quite frankly, I hope that his workplace stops finding ways to bring it up, because all they do is just piss him off. But that's work. It's work. That's one stress, and then financial stress, which all leads to me not writing. Within the next hour and 3 minutes, as I am doing this, it'll probably be less time than that by the time this posts. I will have a fiction due for Darkest Night. Normally, when I get up against a deadline like this, spark appears, an idea magically forms, and I start writing. For the last 4 to 5 months, that's not how the muse has been operating. Trust me, every spark that I get, I latch onto and I start writing immediately, but you still don't see that much fiction coming out, just because of that. Like I have my anamnesis, which I actually did in June. That was during my last productive time where I was still producing fiction. It's not that the prompts aren't good. Like Who Contest is some of the best prompts out there, but I just can't get it to click. I've been thinking of it like a kite in a 30-mile-an-hour wind with a string this long. If you manage to capture the string and the wind dies down long enough, you've got something. Other than that, you're just chasing around after a kite with a string you can't reach in a 30-mile-an-hour wind. And that's pretty much what it's been like with my muse. So it's not the prompts. The prompt I got for Darkest Night, I had like out of 4 to choose from. And one of them is a pairing that I absolutely adore. And everything about this fiction should work. Everything. Everything. It is right up my alley. Absolutely everything about it is spot on perfect, and it should work for me. I know the writer that I'll be writing for. I know that she would enjoy me probably, just going this pairing, this pairing, this pairing, this pairing, this pairing, all the way down the page. She'd probably, enjoy that. Just to say, oh, I got it. She is an extremely kind lady and extremely generous in all ways. But it isn't rocking for me. And it's terrible because I probably should have realized this a couple of weeks ago and went ahead and defaulted. But I have this little problem, you see. At my AO3, I have 5 assignments. 2 of them have been completed. 2 of them I defaulted on, and they still show up. I spoke with AO3 about removing these, and they said I actually have to contact the moderators of these communities and have my defaults removed. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm pretty sure they aren't very happy with me to begin with. One of the defaults was in 2014, and one of them was in 2015. So I'm not really getting a good track record out there. And now here it is. I'm going to have another one that I'm defaulting on. So my track record is going even further down the hill. I mean, technically, to all intents and purposes, this probably isn't very important. But it seems I take those unimportant things and cling to them mightily. Especially since, like I said, I know the writer that I'm going to be writing for. I know that she would enjoy any fiction that I produce. And because I know that, I can't just slap down something half-assed. I've never been able to do that. Just, take any old mediocre idea and slap it across the paper and call it good. If I did that, my name would probably be E.L. James. Forget I said that. I know that was rude. But I just can't take something that's mediocre and lukewarm and half-assed and badly written and attach my name to it and say, oh, this is good. This is good enough to be put out there. So I'm going to be defaulting again, which really, really, really pisses me off, even as I understand the logic of what is happening behind it. High stress trying to get in the Air Force, financial stress. This whole entire year has just been a fuckaroo when it comes to jobs and pay, and trying to pay bills and things like that. Because I'm one of those. I like to stay current. I like the ability to pay my bills. It helps with, relieving my soul, I guess you could say. I am definitely a poverty level person. I like to have my bills paid. I like to be caught up. And personally, I like to eat. It's a thing. And, with that, with trying to get and maintain jobs, the high stress that we have with the jobs now, which is really kind of silly considering what they are, but it's still a corporate atmosphere. I mean, just all these different stresses piling up. It's definitely not the stress we had a couple months ago, and I'm so grateful for that, but it still isn't helping. With getting my brain in gear. I mean, just on ordinary things, I can't seem to get my brain engaged. Now, trying to write on top of it, it just doesn't seem to be happening. So I'm kind of upset about it. I really am. I'm not going to be able to get this in, and there's just nothing more infuriating. I mean, I'm the deadline queen. The second that deadline starts to get within, 24 hours, I sweat and spit out 1,000-word fic that even I'm kind of, okay, yeah, that's actually pretty good, and everybody else seems to, either enjoy or dislike as they please. But it's just not happening this time. It isn't. And I was hoping it would, because yesterday, Thursday, mind you, I went to go see the sergeant and turn in my financial paperwork from the collections agency. So he said this is going to take about a week to process, and then we can start getting things set up. And I said, well, you wanted to sit down and discuss what job I should be getting. I'm like, I left the books with you. I'm pretty sure I can go to military.com and look up jobs. I'm like, but I left the books with you, so I didn't really have anything to study. And he was like, you know what, let's do this right now. And whips out this big piece of paper, this big thing of paper, and he was like, let's look up your scores. He's like, if I remember correctly, they were good. He pulls them up. He's like, oh yeah, they were real good. Now, to let you know, to get into the Air Force, you have to first pass what's known as Armed Forces Qualification Test, AFQT. For most applicants, it's a 50. Because I got a GED, yonks ago, mine was 50. Mine was 65. I have to score 15 points higher than anybody else. After about 3 tries, I finally scored a 65, or a 66 actually. I scored 1 point above, and that's when I left my attitude of I can't do it at home, and took my hubby and the sergeant's attitude of this should be a piece of cake. So I passed that with a 66. Now, the next one is known as the ASVAB, the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Test. So that one I actually did quite well at as well. Once again, when I left my attitude at home and I took the sergeant and my husband's attitude with me, I actually passed with a 74. When I called the staff sergeant and asked him if that was a good score, he went, yeah. And when I got home and I looked it up, I discovered there's maybe 5 jobs I can't do. A couple of them because I'm not male. That's it. So I got, a 66 on the AFQT. I got a 74 on the ASVAB. The ASVAB is broken down in different sections. For mechanical, I got a 75, which really interested me. For administrative, something I always thought I excelled in, I got a 71. For general, just general knowledge, 78. And for electrical, which he was hoping to get me into, I did a 65. Most of the electrical work is between 66 and 70. So, but I mean, he pulled out these pieces of paper, wrote down my scores. He was like, "Oh yeah," and he was like, "Do you know any languages?" Like his first question right off the bat, and I was like, "I know English." Don't even get me started on English and American English. I mean, I love my language, but I have to say, for the ignorant fat slobs that we are seen as all over the world, um, we do pretty good learning this language from toddlerhood on, because English is, my God, what a language. There is no other language like it. And I'm pretty sure the rest of the world is happy about that. I don't understand why we can't learn other languages, except they actually have, structure, and ours doesn't really seem to. But enough about that. He asked me if I knew the languages or if I was interested in languages. And I was like, well, I guess so. So he, like, marked crypto analysis. And I'm like, okay. And he was like, well, they would actually teach you a language, and you'd be learning how to break down languages and interpret languages and things like that. And I'm like, okay. That comes with another test, which I would probably take, before my physical. That's fine. I'm more than happy to do that. But I'm supposed to pick, like, one overarching field, and then the rest of them I'm just supposed to pick 8 things that I would like to be able to do. So I picked things like, intelligence, security, and cyber systems and armament systems. So I'll definitely be able to have a broad range of things that I can do. So it actually didn't take as long as I thought it would. I thought I would sit there and hem and haw and be unsure, but I went through and, like, flipped through the lists, and I'm like, okay, this sounds good, this sounds good, this sounds good. And bang, I was done. And I told him, I said, the sit-ups, no problem. I can knock out about 30 of those in less than a minute and a half. Push-ups, I had some difficulty because I stopped doing that for a while. I was doing this girly push-up thing. So I could do the push-ups, but it's a bit of a struggle. And I explained to him, my overall problem with running. When I was 11, we had to run a 13-minute mile at one of the schools I was at. Now, this school was just horrible to begin with. Let's just go ahead and just put that out there. Their idea of motivation and how you treat youngsters is pretty much a psychologist's dream. This is the school that I got dumped into halfway through. Everybody else could do math 10 times better than I could. And my punishment for not being able to catch up fast enough was to be forced to sit in the middle of a party of kids who did well and watch them eat cake and drink juice while I didn't get any of that, but I had 3 sheets worth of math problems to do. That's the kind of motivation this school liked to put out. So when I did my mile in 16 minutes instead of 13, me and about 4 or 5 other kids had the same problem. We were made to stay anywhere from between 2 to 3 hours and run again and again and again and again. Now, there's a problem with this. The more physical exertion you put out, the more tired you are, so the worse you're going to do. Especially when you're not being given water, you're not being given any type of break. And that's exactly what happened. So it set up 2 problems in my mind. Number 1, I really hate running. Number 2, I can't because I can only run 1 mile in 16 minutes. And that's as a kid. So I realized logically what the block is. And, and I filled in the sergeant a little bit on this background, 11, this is what happened. And this may be part of my problem. I told him, I've been working on it, but I either hyperventilate, which take in way too much air and slow myself down. I said, but I walk at a speed where I could do 1.5 miles in 17 minutes. No sweat. That's the speed I walk. So, he thought that was funny. it's just one of those things. I have a block that I have to get around. And I have to stop listening to me back here, because listening to me makes me not pass my AFQT. Listening to me would have made me fail my ASVAB, and I would have had to wait another 6 months, which means it would have been impossible, and I would never have made it to begin with. So I need to stop listening to me when it comes to this, and I'll tell you why. That very same day, since we weren't going anywhere, I decided to, instead of taking the Jeep, I walked up there, stopped to talk with a couple of our maintenance men, one of whom I've known for 20 years. We've been here that long. And he was like, well, shoot, I don't know if I could run. I don't think I could run when I was younger. He was like, if you're chasing me, sure, I can run. He was like, but other than that, I can't think of that many people that this is a common thing. He was like, but I'm sure you'll have no problems doing it. He was like, you've got two small ones, you're running after them all the time. This shouldn't be a problem. And it's kind of funny because he was correct. I picked up my children, and my eldest, who runs everywhere. I mean, I envy this kid. He runs absolutely everywhere, doesn't get wore out, doesn't break a sweat, anything. He goes and he's gone. He decided he wanted to run most of the way home. And the littlest, who's like Mama, not as physically active, decided he wanted to try to catch up with him. And it's funny because we were halfway home, and the baby's like, okay, wait, I have to stop for a second, wait. And I realized that I had been half running and half jogging, keeping pace with the baby, trying to not go past him, but trying to keep pace with the baby. And the whole entire time I'm doing this running jog right alongside him, talking and laughing while I'm doing it, not even realizing, by the way, dumbass, you're running. And you got halfway home and you're a little bit out of breath. But not as bad, because I wasn't focusing on my breathing. I was focusing on keeping pace with the baby. So I think when I go to do this test, I'm going to keep pace with the baby. And see if I can do it that way. I'm pretty sure I'll do 10 times better, because I won't be focused on, are my legs hurting? Are my knees hurting? How's my breathing going? Is my heart rate okay? If I'm not focused on my own, physical distresses or lack of distress, and I just focus on running with the baby, I'm pretty sure I'll be doing 10 times better. I may need to stop and, go down to a trot every now and again, but I'll do 10 times better. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run with the baby when I go to do this run. About a week or two before then, I'm going to be taking another test to see if I have the ability to be taught, retain, and decrypt a language. If so, that's exciting. That really is. So keep your fingers crossed. But if not, I've got other things I can go into, and the tests will say whether or not I qualify for those. And for some reason, I just have this feeling that I'll probably do well at that. Not because I think so, but because everybody else seems to think so. And when it comes to, what I should eat, when I should eat, my tired levels, things like that, I'm a pretty good analyst. When it comes to my own abilities, I seem to be horrible at analyzing. So I'm not going to analyze how I'm going to do. I'm going to let everybody else decide that for me, because they seem to have better judgment along these lines. But here within the next week or two, I'm going to be taking this test, and then I will be doing my physical. And I told the staff sergeant, I said, if I don't do well, sir, I said, keep my number just in case they raise the age limit again. I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing. I'm going to keep trying just in case I can take another crack at it. And he was like, I'll be more than happy to keep your number. He was like, I'll keep your number, but I won't need it. And that's what I walked out of that office with. I'll keep your number, but I won't need it, because you'll already be in. You'll already be where you need to be. He was like, I have nothing but confidence in you. So that right there was a great feeling. I mean, it's lasted even until today, where I was just completely drag-ass tired. And even though, my confidence has been shaken a little bit because I'm not going to be able to make this Fickathon, I realize that maybe as I'm getting older, these challenges aren't really what I need. Um, the ideas that I've been getting, the fictions that I've wanted to write have been gravitating slowly away from challenges, and I've been finding ways to challenge myself, at least before the muse dropped off the earth. Um, and I think that's the way I'm going to go from now on. I mean, I have signed up now for 5 Fickathons in the last 3 years, and as we can see, only 2 of them have I been able to actually do anything with. Um, I'm hoping to write something for Who contest, but like I said, with how the muse has been so hit and miss, I'm not really sure exactly how that's going to work out. But hopefully, as stress levels level out, and if I ever get more time, believe it or not, I still don't have whole loads of that. If I ever get more time, then that will happen. But I'm not going to try to predict that. So I guess here soon I'll be telling the mods, sorry, I don't have it. And hopefully I will find a way to get my defaults removed by talking to moderators and having them remove them, so I won't have to look at fail, fail, fail every time. That's kind of discouraging when it comes to writing. You look up there, 5 assignments, 2 of which you managed to turn in, the other 3 you haven't. So that is something that I'm not looking forward to. But I am looking forward to doing these tests and doing better than I expect. Let's put it like that. I know I have like 5 billion other posts that I've done that I have to answer, and I have all of you guys to catch up with, and I've got this weekend to do it in. The kids are off until Wednesday. It's going to blow over well. But we shall struggle through this next week, I believe. And I will be hopefully doing another post before the end of next week. And hopefully I will have all the others answered that need to be answered. So until then, be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and know that I love you. Bye, guys.